He was making $3.6 million a year. NFL star, Arizona Cardinals, one of the most feared defenders in the league. And one morning, he just quit. No goodbye party, no press conference, no farewell speech. He walked into the facility, turned in his playbook, and signed up for the United States Army. Most people called him a hero. The government called him an opportunity. And when he died in the mountains of Afghanistan, they lied about it to his family, to his brother, to the entire country. But that's not even the darkest part of this story. Because when you look at the details, the 3 gunshot wounds, the destroyed evidence, the silent soldiers, a question starts forming that nobody in power wants you to ask. Was Pat Tillman's death really an accident? To understand what happened to Pat Tillman, you first have to understand who he actually was, because the version the government sold you, the square-jawed, flag-waving poster boy for the war on terror, that wasn't him. Not even close. Patrick Daniel Tillman was born on November 6, 1976, in San Jose, California. From the time he was a kid, he was different. He wasn't just athletic. He was obsessive, driven, the kind of person who read philosophy books in his spare time and questioned everything around him. At Arizona State University, he became one of the most dominant linebackers in the country. In 1997, he was named the Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year. Coaches called him a once-in-a-generation talent. In 1998, the Arizona Cardinals drafted him, and he delivered immediately. By 2000, he set the team record for tackles in a single season, 224. Let that sink in. 224 tackles in 1 year. He was fast, he was relentless, and he was only getting better. Then came September 11th, 2001. Tillman watched the Twin Towers fall like the rest of America. But unlike most people, he didn't just feel anger. He felt responsibility. He kept a journal, and in it, he wrote that he and his brother Kevin, who was playing minor league baseball at the time, had been coasting through life on their athletic privilege while others sacrificed everything. So in May 2002, Pat Tillman did the unthinkable. He turned down a 3-year, $3.6 million contract extension from the Cardinals. He and his brother Kevin both enlisted in the United States Army together. No cameras, no publicity. He actually asked the Army not to make a big deal of it. But of course, the story got out. And overnight, Pat Tillman became the face of American patriotism. What most people didn't know, what the government definitely didn't want you to know, is that behind closed doors, Pat Tillman had serious doubts about the wars he was being sent to fight. According to soldiers who served alongside him, Tillman called the Iraq War so fucking illegal. He had arranged to meet with Noam Chomsky, one of the most famous anti-war intellectuals in the world, when he returned home. He was not the mindless soldier they were building him into. He was a thinker, a questioner, a man who did what he believed was right, even when he disagreed with the people giving the orders. And that, some believe, is exactly what got him killed. April 22nd, 2004, eastern Afghanistan, the mountains near the village of Spera. Tillman's platoon was on patrol when a Humvee broke down on a narrow mountain road. Command made a decision that military experts still question to this day. They ordered the platoon to split into 2 separate groups. One group would stay with the broken vehicle. The other would push ahead through a canyon. That canyon was one of the most vulnerable stretches of road in the entire region. High walls on both sides, no air support, limited communication, the perfect kill box. Tillman's group moved ahead. His brother Kevin was in the other group, behind him. Then the ambush hit, but not from the Taliban. It came from within their own convoy. The second group, coming up behind, entered the canyon and got caught in a firefight with local forces. In the chaos, confusion, and noise, a squad leader in an armored vehicle spotted shadowy figures on a ridgeline above him. He opened fire. Those shadowy figures were Pat Tillman and an allied Afghan soldier named Syed Farhad, who had climbed the ridge to help their fellow rangers below. Tillman reportedly stood up, waved his arms, and screamed that he was an American, that they were friendlies. It didn't matter. The shooting continued. Pat Tillman was struck 3 times. All 3 shots hit him in the forehead. From a distance of less than 10 yards, Syed Farhad was also killed. The platoon leader and his radio operator were wounded. And just like that, one of the most famous soldiers in America was gone. He was 27 years old. Here's where the story stops being a tragedy and starts being something much darker. Within hours of Pat Tillman's death, while his body was still in Afghanistan, the cover-up had already begun. A captain ordered Tillman's blood-soaked uniform and body armor to be burned, not stored, not preserved for investigation. Burned in direct violation of military regulations. His weapon disappeared. His helmet disappeared. Even a portion of his remains that had fallen to the ground during the attack, gone. Army officials told the medical examiner that Tillman had been killed by the Taliban. Then they sent his body home, and they sent a soldier named Russell Bear, who knew the truth, to attend the funeral with specific instructions. Do not tell the Tillman family what really happened. Bear was so consumed with guilt that after the funeral, he went AWOL. He couldn't live with the lie. But the military story held, at least for a while. The Army awarded Pat Tillman the Silver Star, the Purple Heart, and a posthumous promotion to corporal. They released a detailed account of his heroic death in the line of devastating enemy fire. General Stanley McChrystal, who would later become the top US commander in Afghanistan, personally signed off on the Silver Star recommendation. This is important because at the time he signed it, he already knew the truth. He had sent a private memo the very next day, warning senior government officials that Tillman may have been killed by friendly fire. He signed the medal anyway. Meanwhile, the White House went into overdrive. Statements were rushed to the media. Pat Tillman, the hero who gave up millions to fight for his country, was dead. And his story was about to become the most powerful recruiting tool the war on terror had ever seen. There was just one problem. Pat Tillman's mother, Mary Tillman, didn't believe a word of it. Mary Tillman started asking questions immediately. She pressed the army for details. She pointed out inconsistencies. She demanded answers. The army stonewalled her at every turn. It wasn't until 5 weeks after Pat's death, after the memorial service, after the medals, after the national mourning, that the Pentagon quietly notified the Tillman family that their son had actually been killed by friendly fire. The country was barely told. But even then, the family felt like they weren't getting the full story. And they were right. Over the following years, through 4 separate military investigations, and multiple congressional hearings, the layers of deception slowly peeled back. In 2007, specialist Brian O'Neill, the last person to see Pat Tillman alive, testified before Congress. He told lawmakers that his superiors had explicitly ordered him not to tell the media or the Tillman family about the friendly fire. That same year, 2 members of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform accused Bush administration officials and the Pentagon of actively withholding documents related to Tillman's death. Documents that had been doctored, reports that contradicted each other, investigators who were misled, senior officers who escaped accountability. And then there was the detail that made even hardened military veterans go quiet. 3 gunshot wounds, all to the forehead, all from a distance of less than 10 yards. Army doctors who examined Tillman noted that the pattern of the wounds was, in their words, unusual for friendly fire. Was it a terrible accident in the chaos of combat? Or was it something else? Nobody has ever been criminally charged for Pat Tillman's death. General Kinzinger, who oversaw special operations at the time, was censured in 2007 for lying to investigators. Not charged, not prosecuted, censured. He kept his pension. Here's what we know for certain. Pat Tillman did not support the wars he was sent to fight. He was critical of the Bush administration. He had arranged meetings with anti-war voices for when he returned home. And he was one of the most famous, most visible soldiers in the country. A man whose voice, if he had chosen to use it publicly, could have shifted the conversation around the entire war on terror. He would not let them use him while he was alive. But when he died, his mother put it best. She said the government saw it as an opportunity. He wouldn't let them use him in life. But in death, they thought it was their chance to glorify what happened, to make him a symbol, to use him as a recruiting tool. The deception wasn't just about covering up a mistake. It was about controlling a narrative. It was about turning a complicated, questioning, intellectually honest man into a simple symbol, a flag, a poster, a reason to keep fighting. And they nearly got away with it. Mary Tillman spent years fighting through bureaucracy, cover-ups, and institutional silence to get even a fraction of the truth. To this day, she says she never received a genuine apology. They've never apologized to us, she said. It's just lies upon lies upon lies. And they did it so tactically, so strategically. Pat Tillman was not the hero they built. He was something better than that. He was real. He was complicated. He asked hard questions and made hard choices, and he paid for them with his life. Whether his death was a tragic accident hidden by cowards or something far darker, one thing is undeniable. The people in power chose their image over his truth. They chose propaganda over a grieving family. They chose silence over accountability. And over 20 years later, nobody has truly paid for that. Pat Tillman deserved better. And so did we.